Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be a bit of a interesting day while I sit here waiting for something that I've ordered, and it's supposed to arrive this afternoon or tomorrow morning. So I ordered a Fractal Audio FM3. I ditched the Helix and I will explain you in a minute why, and why I chose to go for the FM3 and why I'm quite excited. And also, for me, this is the turning point or the tipping point. If I like the FM3, I might invest more in the modular world. If I don't like it, it means that it's not for me, because I've tried like everything over the years. My first amp was a Fender Twin Reverb, and it sounded absolutely amazing. On the same day, I bought a Gibson SG, and these two things together, they were just amazing. I was really pleased with that sound. So that held up for a couple of years. I bought a Stratocaster, had the two guitars that I needed, everything was fine. And if I would have been smarter then, I would still have that amp and those two guitars and I'd be happy. But of course, as things go with guitar players, we choose different paths. So along came the gigs and I had to have something that I could carry around. Now, the Twin Reverb was fine if you did your own gigs, and we played like a couple of times a year, maybe once a month, and it wasn't too bad holding those things around, because I mean all the amps were heavy in those days, so there was no exception there. An amp was just a heavy thing. But when I started doing gigs with other people, I needed something that was transportable and that I could carry around. Late 80s, everybody wanted effects. You needed choruses, you needed delays, you needed reverbs in all kinds of sorts and everything. So I had to catch up with these things, and that was not my thing. I had my amp, my guitar, and a couple of pedals, and that was it. And all of a sudden, when I was touring with, I toured with the Tramps for a season. They were heavy into the sounds that were going around then, and they wanted me to have all the effects. And in those days, there wasn't too much around that I could afford. Some of you might remember there was that Zoom, and I think it was Zoom 9000. I'll insert a photo of that, which is a small grey box that had like loads of effects. It sounded not really good, but it did help you with some effects. And then a bit later, and that was just before that tour with the Tramps, I bought a Digitech GSP-21 Legend. Here's a photo of that. It was a 19-inch rack, loads of effects, but it also had guitar amps or simulations of guitar amps in it. And that gave you the idea that it was easier to do those gigs, because you just had to carry that 19-inch rack and a power amp, and that was it. So by that time I had a Marshall stack for my own band, which was a 6100 Jubilee, I think. Those blue ones, purple blue ones. I love that amp, and I wish I would have kept it. It was around the time I bought my first Ibanez Gem Steve Vai Swirl 7-string, and it was an original one. I mean, yeah, I could cry if I think about it. Anyway, I couldn't carry the stack or the half stack around, so I bought a valve state, an 80-watt chorus stereo Marshall valve state, and then I had that Digitech GSP-21, and that seemed convenient. But the more stuff I got and the more modern my gear got, the worse the sound got, and it was really frustrating, because you kept buying all these things like Rocktron and TC Electronic 19-inch stuff, but your sound didn't improve. It got more convenient, but it didn't sound better, and it certainly didn't feel better to play on stage. So that was really confusing in the mid-90s. Every time you bought something and the sound got worse, you bought something else to improve on the sound, and it didn't help things. Whenever I had the opportunity to take my amp, I would do that. And the small compact gear was only when it was really impossible to carry something else. I think it was early 90s when Eugene Kettner released the Tube Man. It was a pedal and it was a preamp. It had a tube in it, and it had like 4 settings: rock, jazz, funk, and blues, I think. Here's a photo of that. And I would use that in front of my amp to give it a bit of a more volvy sound, and that worked really well. You could also record with that thing. It had, I think, a line out, so you could just start that pedal, bring it to a studio, and record your guitar with it. It was good for clean sounds. It wasn't really cutting it for the overdrive sounds. But I used that pedal throughout my days with Uncle Meat playing bass, and toured the whole of Europe a couple of times with just that pedal and my Hardcore 19-inch amp, the 3500 I think it was, no cab, just that little pedal, 19-inch small flight case with the amp, and that was it, and it sounded really, really good. And then of course the Boss pedals came along, the GT5 I think I had, and then maybe a GT8, and then I thought, I'm not going to use the amps, I just want the effect, so I bought an ME50 that I still got. I mean, loads of stuff, you know, all the history of that, probably because you've done it yourself. And then Line 6 came along with the pot, and that was an eye-opener, and a lot of us felt like, okay, this is it now, finally we can have something small, compact that we can carry around, and we don't have to bring an amp every time. Did that for a while, and then eventually bought the HD 500, I think. I'm not quite sure, you know, the pedal board just before the Helix came out. And actually they released the last version of that pedal board when they were actually already working on the Helix, when the Helix was in its final stage of production, which is really bizarre, but this is how marketing works. And then eventually I bought the Helix, and it's with the Helix that I got really frustrated. I mean, first of all, the factory presets are absolutely useless. I could not find one preset that I liked. And I think if you buy something for that kind of money, the factory presets should be inspiring, should help you to get to know the device and to motivate you to dive in a bit deeper. The only thing it did with me, it was frustration. It built up frustration because every sound was bad. I've got a massive pedal board, which I really like. I've got really, really good pedals. If I have the opportunity to take the pedal board, I will always take the pedal board. But when reality kicks in and you're playing in a small club and there's not the time to do a decent sound check, you don't have a car park nearby. If your car is parked 200 meters from the venue and you have like a small stack, this is I mean, I'm not sure if you can see it. That is my main amp. It's a Koch twin tone 3, so it's not like a full size top of like a Marshall, and I got a Zilla Cap 212. So that's a small stack. If I can't carry that in a relaxed way, I want to do something else. So that's when I want to have something that gives me the opportunity to do the gig, that I know that in the audience they will have a decent sound, but I also want to have an experience on stage where I feel happy about the sound. And that's where the problem lies. The times that I used the Helix, I had an LT and came into the club. At first I'm happy when the club is small and I don't have to carry my stuff hundreds of meters from the car to the venue. I just grab the Helix, my guitar in my mono bag, and I'm there, I'm ready, plug in the cables, and within minutes I can play. And then you got like maybe 15 minutes to do the sound check. The drummer takes up most of that time because there's a bit of tweaking to do with drums, and then there's bass and guitar, and then it's your guitar, you play your guitar, and because of the venue, the floors are tiled or the ceiling is totally flat, they've got lots of windows, the sound is absolutely horrible. Too much reverb, too much delay, too much high end, could be everything. And then you have to kneel over to that thing and start looking at parameters, and you have to figure out, should I change the global parameters, or do I have to go through all the patches and see what needs tweaking with every patch. So you're sort of panicking a bit. So you're getting stressed, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we got no more time to sound check, we have to close this, guys, get off stage. And then you have to talk to the front of house sound engineer and ask him, like, maybe my guitar sound is not perfect, but could you please try to fix it, because I don't have the time anymore. Whereas with an amp, if the sound in the room is different, because every room sounds different, you just go to your EQ, you modify your EQ a bit, and you know that for every song, for every sound that you use, the EQ will be changed to what you just done. Now, the reason why I don't know that device as well as I should have is because there's so many things you can change. You can change the way the buttons behave, you can change the menus, there's so many things that you can alter. I could work with the editor, but with the device itself, it was a nightmare, especially when I was under stress doing a sound check. So I thought, no, this is not going to work. This is not for me. So I sold the Helix. I can't stay out of the modeling game because I might need it every now and again. What am I going to do? I'm going to give the Helix a little try because I know the editor more or less, and I know some of the channels that really helped me before, so I could fall back on that. But then I decided, no, let's go for the Fractal, because it's a small thing, the FM3. It's quite powerful. To me, it sounds really good. I mean, the things I've seen and heard really convinced me. And I think the factory presets are good as well. And that's what convinced me to go that route. It's only got 3 buttons, I know, but for us, every song is a different patch. So here's my challenge. I'm now going to wait until the unit arrives. I will unbox it, and I will give myself 1 hour to find or to come up or to program 4 sounds. The 4 basic sounds I need. The first one is a bit of a clean sound with some hair on it, and on my pedal board I use the Cornerstone Gladio. On the first channel I will insert a photo, and that just with some delay and reverb, and that's it, in the Koch twin tone. That gives me the clean tone that I really like. The second patch I want to find within that first hour is a crunch sound, and usually I use my Cornerstone Royal Antique. Both channels on. Here's a photo of my settings. That's straight into the delay and into the twin tone. Sorry, the delay is in the effects loop of the twin tone. That's my crunch sound. Then I want a full blast lead sound, and for that I usually use my JHS Angry Charlie. Here are the settings. That goes straight into the delay again, and then into the amp. And then I want 1 patch with some compression and a vibe. Delay and reverb. That's it. Those 4 patches I want to find within the hour. So let's see what happens. Get the box in, we'll open it together, plug in the device, have a look at it, see if I can get my head around it. I've got my FR ready. It's Electric Voice ZLX. Little table for the FM3. That goes straight into DAW, and then I've got my twin tone mic'd up so I can compare the 2 sounds. So I will first record the 4 tones with the twin tone, and then I will go straight to the FM3. I will be using my main guitar. This is my Q-Rich T-Style. It's got a Seymour Duncan P90 in the neck and a Thornbucker in the bridge. It's an absolute beast of a guitar. So now let's wait for the postman to arrive.